Okay, listen up here, guys. So the activity that you're going to be working on here, I'm giving you the short version of it, okay? So it'll take a lot less time to do. You won't actually have to build the climate graphs, okay? I've got them built for you. If you scroll down in the file a little ways, okay, you'll find that all of the climate graphs that you need are actually down below, okay? So what the purpose of this activity is that we want to incorporate being able to read a climate graph or a climatogram, okay, with the factors that affect climate. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is looking at the Canadian cities listed here, and we're going to be putting them in groups based on the shapes of their climate graphs. Okay, now I say shapes, I don't just mean the shape, I mean the data that's on it. Okay, a lot of these have a different scale. So you need to look closely at them. Okay, for example, okay, when we're looking at the climate graph for the Halifax International Airport, the scale for it is the same as it is for the one for St. John's. But you can see here, I couldn't find one with that scale for Prince Rupert. So when you look at it, you need to make sure that you are looking at, okay, so, you know, July, according in this one here, July has got an average temperature of about 12 degrees Celsius for Prince Rupert, okay, whereas in for Newfoundland, I'm looking at it here and it's more like 15. So the shape is okay in general, but you got to make sure that you're looking at the numbers as well. All right, now, thing here that I'm pretty sure I covered in the podcast, but I'm going to review again. When you look at a climate graph, the line tells you the temperatures. The bars are for precipitation. That's why there's two y-axes on these graphs. Okay, so the precipitation, the part that goes with the bars, is on the right-hand side. Okay, and the temperature, which goes with the line, is on the left-hand side. Right. So when we're putting cities in groups together, we want to first look at the shape of their graphs and go, okay, well, these things seem to have, you know, like I would say that this and this seem to have similar patterns, okay? Like Halifax and Charlottetown and even St. John seem to have a similar pattern, and that would be that rainfall is pretty steady, maybe a little lower in the summer, okay, but pretty steady all the way across. And the temperature curve, okay, goes up in about the same places. You know, summer's around, you know, 15 to 20 degrees. I mean, it's only a couple of degrees difference here, okay. This one here, we're looking at temperature being, you know, around, again, the same, 17, 18 degrees in the summer. Our lows, okay, minus 10, minus 8, okay. Here it's minus 5, here's minus, so this one's a little colder, okay, things like that. But I'm looking at a similar shape. So I'm going to say, all right, their graphs are similar enough that I'm going to put them in the same group, okay? Once you've built groups based on the shapes and data from the graphs, what you're going to do is use Google Earth, okay, to decide on, or sorry, to look up the locations of these cities, okay, and see what factors that we went over in lesson 1 do they have in common. Hopefully, it's a lot. Okay, like for example, these 3 cities are all located where? Yeah, they're all on the east coast of Canada. Okay, they all have, you know, similar latitudes. They have similar altitudes in that they're all kind of near sea level. Okay, obviously they all are on the ocean. Okay, they're all coastal cities. Proximity to ocean is one of the factors that affects climate. So is latitude, so is altitude. They've got these things in common. Everybody follow? Okay, that's what we're kind of looking for in terms of the analysis here. Put your phone away while I'm talking. Okay, now, if we go back up into here, okay, you're going to have a hypothesis here, if and then statement that's going to talk about, okay, if the following factors are, you know, major factors affecting climate in Canada, and this comparison, blah, 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 okay, then cities with these factors will have climates like this, and cities with these factors have climates like this, okay? You don't have to be extensive. You don't have to list like 8 different kinds of things. Just say, you know, cities near oceans will be like this. Cities near mountains will be like this, okay? Something like that in the then part, all right? Everybody follow what we're looking for there, right? There's no design, no variables, right? Because this is strictly a data analysis and not an actual lab. Okay. All right, so you're going to be with a group here, okay, and you're going to group the cities based on their climate patterns. Then, like I said, it says here in an atlas, but Google Earth works better. Okay, it's just quicker. You have the laptops there, so it's just going to be faster to use Google Earth. Okay, now the thing about some of these graphs, well, they don't have it on. What you can do with Google Earth, just type in the city name, okay? And usually Google Earth will tell you the latitude and longitude. Not that you need longitude, but it'll give you the latitude, okay? And it'll usually give you the altitude as well. And that's two things that you're going to want to write down for each of your cities, because those are two factors that affect climate. And if you can have the numbers for those, that's pretty useful in comparing some things, right? I mean, if I'm looking at two cities and I'm like, oh, their graphs are kind of the same, and then I notice that one has a latitude of 49 degrees and the other has a latitude of 58 degrees, those aren't affected in the same way by the same factors. Their latitudes aren't anywhere near the same, and they might not belong then in the same group, even though their climate graphs look alike. Okay, everybody follow me there, right? So when you're looking at those numbers, we want to have some justification for putting them in the same group other than it looks like they get the same amount of rain and the same temperature, right? We want to make sure that they're being affected by the same things. It's possible for different sets of factors affecting climate to produce similar climates, even though the factors that are causing that are totally different, right? Does everybody follow me on that? Okay. All right, so what you're going to do here, okay, is you're going to write a brief description of each city, okay, and you're going to describe the terrain. So, you know, when I looked up Winnipeg, oh, well, it was, you know, it's in the middle of the continent. It's near a big lake, but, you know, other than that, it's not near mountains. It's not near the ocean. Okay, you're writing down stuff about the terrain. Also write down for that latitude and altitude. Okay, so that's kind of the description you're writing for each city. Right, so a little blurb about each city. That's why you're working in a group, because it takes a long time to look all that stuff up. Okay, so you're going to, let's say, group of 3, everybody looks up 5 cities. Okay, it doesn't take long. Then you can sit down and kind of pore over the data and say, okay, well, these ones belong together. Everybody following? Okay. So there's quite a bit of analysis to do. Okay, so it also says here, be sure to include latitude measured in degrees. You might also want to add to that altitude in meters, okay, because you're going to want that as well. Also altitude in meters. Okay, so for analysis and interpretation, number 1. So with your group, try and group the different climates based on your findings. That is the graph and the geography that you've just looked up. Okay, so you may have a couple of cities that have similar climate and features, and you put them in a group together. So if we were looking at those 3, Newfoundland, the one, St. John's, and then Halifax, and then Charlottetown, we would probably put them in a group together, and you could call it something like Atlantic climate. Okay, and then you would provide your reasoning for these 3 belong in this group together because these factors seem to be the same for all of them, and their climate graphs are showing these patterns: heavy rainfall or steady rainfall or no rainfall or whatever it happens to be, right? So once you have the groups made up, then you need to explain to me why those cities are in that group together and what the major factors are. Okay. All right. So realistically, you're probably going to need between 4 and 7 different groups. That's usually about what it works out to be. Some people will have a few more groups because they're just a little bit more specific. Some people have fewer because, you know, it's just, well, these seem to have a nice pattern together. Fewer than 4, and you're not working hard enough to find ways to separate them. Okay, like you can't just say, all right, continental, east, west, done. No, it's got to be a little bit more than that. Okay, because there's just simply more climate groups than that in Canada. All right, and then for number 2, we've kind of talked about this a bit, but this is going to be in addition to the climate graphs that you have already. Right, so you've got those 15 climate graphs. Okay, it says using an atlas, or in this case Google Earth. Okay, place the following cities in groups in the groups you made. So now you're going to add them to the groups you have. Okay, and explain your reasoning. So Dawson, Yukon is one of them. All right, so you're going to look up Dawson, Yukon, see where it is. Okay, don't need to look up a climate graph for it. Just look up where it is and say, all right, based on where it is, these factors probably affect its climate, so it goes with that group. All right, so you'd say Dawson City goes in this group because. All right, everyone follow there. All right, and you're going to do that for each of these cities. So you'll have Dawson, you'll have Cambridge Bay, Prince George, British Columbia, Fort Vermilion, Lethbridge, Timmins, Windsor, Ottawa, Sept-Îles, Fort George, it's in Quebec. Okay, Saint Jean and Okotoks, okay, are going to be in there. Also remember that you have climate graphs for Vancouver, Medicine Hat, and St. John's. Those need to be included with the other 15, with the other climate graphs that are down below. All right, does everyone follow what you're doing? So you use the ones you have climate graphs for and Google Earth, put them in groups, then take the ones in number 2 and say, this one goes in this group for this reason, this one goes in this group for this reason. Then you got conclusion at the end. Based on what you're able to do, what are the most important factors affecting climate in Canada? Okay, why do you have this many groups? That's what you need to say in your conclusion. Okay, questions there. Now we have a little bit of a shortened class today. Okay, so we're also going to be working on this again on Monday. All right, tomorrow I won't be here because I'm at Track Provincials. Okay, so you'll have a sub. You're watching the rest of the lesson 3 podcast that I didn't get through. Okay, but I found a better version of it where the mic doesn't cut out, because you were right, the mic was popping like crazy. Okay, so I found one where it doesn't do that. And then you'll be watching the start of lesson 4 on wind patterns. I don't know how far you'll get into that. Okay, and then, like I said, Monday we'll finish this up and move into wind patterns after that. Yeah. I don't think so. I think you'll get it done on Monday. Yeah, I don't think it'll be an issue. Okay, it wasn't meant to be an issue of big homework, okay, because you guys got to be studying for finals and stuff like that now. Okay, any other questions on that? All right, so you're going to need to get into a group of 3, okay, at least 3. No bigger than, let's say 3 or 4, no bigger than that though, okay?